Hi, Simon.
Hey, Lisa. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
We had a recent episode where we talked about doing research and good ways to conduct research. So today, I think we're going to dive right into the next step if you did a survey and how to use AI to kind of make sense of the research. Do you
Yeah.
want to say it another way?
No, it's fine. Exactly. I think, you've done the job of setting up a survey. You've got a lot of data, and it could be a prospect or customer survey. So we'll sort of not worry too much about that language, but you're going to have a lot of data, and there are challenges with once you do surveys, right? The biggest challenge is the analysis. How do you gain the insights, right?
I know.
Um,
I think that's the problem almost with everything. It's like, so what? What do you do with it? And then how do you do the analysis? And
right.
you and I have talked about being curious, but I think we've got other means now to be able to extract value from what people are saying.
Yeah, I was just thinking back. I used to we both worked for a company, as a consumer electronics company, and we would do website surveys. We'd also
Mm-hmm.
do post-sale surveys. People bought a product, they activated it.
Mm-hmm.
When we would do the website surveys, a lot of the answers were open-ended, right? We'd
Mm-hmm.
ask people if they were successful, they'd say no. So we would say to tell us why, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they would give us some answer in text. And a website survey, if you have a lot of traffic, you could have thousands of these surveys, and you've got
Yeah.
to like figure out how you find a pattern and how do you do analysis. And oh my gosh, if we had had AI back then, it would have been amazing. So, I mean, again, the big issues with the old way of manual analysis is really that you're looking at it. You're looking with your eyeballs at an Excel spreadsheet,
Yeah.
and it's really slow. You're like slogging through all of these responses. And then I need another issue. Any good researcher would tell you that probably you're going to bias to people who are the loudest opinions, wrote the most, um, things like that, where it's like someone gives you a full and complete answer and you can be like, oh, that's a nugget. But if it's not really repetiting or repeating across other surveys, you don't know that it's really valuable. And then I
Yeah.
think that sort of speaks to the fact that it's easy to miss patterns, right? When you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at all this data, even the
Yep.
number data, right? You could do an average, but do you, right?
Even the number data, I know what you mean. So what you were describing was the qualitative, what people think, and then quantitative, where maybe there's a ranking or something that
Right,
is they
exactly.
choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or
But you're always like, do I use a
yeah,
mean, a median, right?
yeah,
Which of
right.
the averages? So I think enter AI, right?
Right. So your point is we've got tools today that can help us with the analysis. If it's not built into the tool that you're using, you can then take the results and start to use, upload things into AI to help you glean insights probably quicker or insights, period, in the
Right.
first place. Like how, as opposed to, like you said, just slogging through a bunch of, verbatims. It's like, well,
I mean, I think
it's rough.
you can find trends. You may even be able to get your responses automatically categorized, right? Um,
Definitely.
so
Yeah, exactly. And as a matter of fact, like not just surveys in general, and not to get too far off topic, but from tangents to tactics, if you will. Yeah.
yeah.
No, but if there's let's say
Oh,
you
that
do
should be
get
our that can be our gang
tangents,
sign.
that's true.
Tangents to
T to T.
tactics.
Yeah, it's true. Or you do one hand then the other hand. Yeah. I like that. Um but with the numbers thing, so let's say you just get some sort of table with a bunch of numbers in it and you're like, I don't know how to visualize this, or I don't really know how to glean. You can
Right.
upload this to ChatGPT or whatever and say, what do tell me what you find in this data set. and then it can
Oh,
come
so
back with
you're
some
just saying
insights.
like if I had a spreadsheet
Yep.
of data numbers, not even
Yeah,
survey related, but
exactly.
oh yeah.
Like, what is this? What do you see? Do you see any patterns? And maybe it's like, monthly something something. And
Subscriptions or
yeah, sure.
abandoned bounce rate on your email or
And it could
yeah,
be
open
multiple.
rate.
It could
Yeah.
be exactly. So it's like, here's all my emails, here's over
Email
time,
data.
here's what yeah, exactly. And say, what do you see? And then it can give you some insights on that. Now, caveat.
I was
So
gonna say
sidebar. Um, I would not do that unless you have a paid version of an AI platform that does not train on your data.
right.
So you do not want to be sharing your trade secrets on anything, but especially numbers. Be careful about that unless you already have it. It's a team plan with ChatGPT, and then I don't know what the equivalent is with the other ones, but make sure
Yeah.
or check with your company's policy if you have a policy on it.
And again, AI is great, but all of us asking random questions and giving it sort of thumbs up, thumbs down, and oftentimes asking it to clarify a question or response, that is training the AI. It now has that data. So
I
again,
think people know that, but it's just when you're doing it, you don't think of it. You're like, oh, I'm just, and it's like, yeah, but be careful what you're saying because like
yeah,
that other people can kind of get access to it. So you don't want to be like, oh, at Type 26, these are my, I've got this chart of my revenue. And, it's like, then you're disclosing all
exactly.
that. So
So,
yeah, don't do
I
that.
mean, you touched on the tools. Why don't we just talk about a few of them? What are, you know, what are those free low cost AI tools that you can use to do survey analysis?
I think we've mentioned some of these before. We've got a full episode dedicated to AI, but we've ChatGPT, which is OpenAI. Google's version is Gemini. Also, I think believe it starts with a free plan. Claude from Anthropic. Perplexity is another one. Copilot is Microsoft,
Microsoft, yeah.
which is ChatGPT actually. So they have a relationship. And I think Amazon has a version of something. I don't remember what it's called. And that also, I believe, is ChatGPT. So,
Okay.
and then DeepSeek. So fresh, hot off the presses. So that's from, so there's another one. So it is from China, and they are making a lot of claims that, China isn't always honest, to be honest. So I don't know if the claims are true. But I would be wary that anything that you put in that is probably going to their government. Just so, yeah. So keep that in mind. And that it is free. So like that, it seems like they have, and people seem to be blown away by it. So that's another one. Do you have any other ones?
No, but more and more you're seeing
Meta, Llama.
Llama.
They have
Llama.
one too. Yeah. I think it's Llama.
Llama.
No?
I don't know.
Sure?
2 L's. It's Spanish.
I know, but I think it's large language model is what it came from.
Oh, okay.
And a llama is an animal, but it's also spelled LL and pronounced llama. So I don't know. We can debate that.
Okay. For another episode.
Exactly.
I think the key sort of concept here is that if you can export data, and it might be from a survey, but maybe you, like Lisa mentioned, you have data from your emails. Maybe people provide you customer service feedback on your website, or you just have a couple questions that pop up and ask people about their visit. Whatever it is, if you can export that data, you can put it into a spreadsheet and upload it to an AI tool.
It doesn't even have to be as fancy as exporting. If it's anything that is, you can access, you can copy and paste, or you can type it in. So just as an aside, like it sounds very fancy when you're like, I'm going to export the data. It's like, you can just grab it. Even if it's a table in a spreadsheet, you literally can copy and paste it in there and it figures it out. So just as an aside.
And
but your point, digital. Like it's not like, if it, if you get feedback from people that walk into your store and they verbally tell you stuff, you have to have a way to kind of input it into AI.
Now,
you can't just.
I mean, if you log that, if you're diligent and the feedback you get, you journal or capture somehow, again, digitally, then you can use it.
Yeah.
I will say this too. Some plans are going to limit you on the number or the size of the content
Mm,
that you cut and
that's
paste.
true.
So just keep that in mind. But
That's
I mean,
true.
for example, you could take 100 surveys and you could ask AI to tell you what their top 5 concerns are, right?
Yep.
It's let's think about maybe what are those prompts? What are the things you might ask about?
I mean, I start real simple when I'm like, I'll say, first thing I do is I say, what can you tell me about this? And it's just literally like, let it tell me, any insights that it has. That is usually what triggers me then to go deeper into the next thing. So it
So
could
more
be
refinement.
more refinement. And if it says like, oh, there's pricing issues or service quality, then I can say, categorize these for me. So then if I wanted to see the verbatim, or if I wanted to see, you could even say, tell me where, or give me an example so that you can reference it, because you also have
Right.
to make sure that it's true. Um, and then maybe you say, if it gives you that, you could say, okay, now can you put these into categories if you wanted to do it that way? So just to kind of organize it, you can then take another step and say, what actions should I take to improve this? Or what action
Mhm.
should I take? You could ask it for feedback on that. And as always, you and I have talked about this, that you have to always check. So there might be things that it says and it's like, okay, that actually sounds like a good recommendation. That's fine. But like, you got to make sure that what it's citing is accurate. So it's good for you to reference the source that you gave it, just to
Right.
say, like, where did you get that from? Because honestly, like, it makes things up.
So, well, and I'll say this, it's not directly related to survey response analysis, but I was talking to one of my kids about a master's program and comparing 2 different master's programs from 2 different colleges. And so
Mhm.
we actually asked ChatGPT, we said, please compare the ASU program name to master's program name to the CSU program name. And it not only did a decent like comparison, like different, and it sliced and diced it different ways, cost, classes, class list, overall sentiment on the internet about the 2 schools and things like that.
So this
But
is
it actually cited it. Oh, this is way
sidebar,
but to your point,
sidebar.
ChatGPT is starting to cite website. So there
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
actually a little mark next to
Mm-hmm.
the content. So I knew where it came from.
Well, and you do have to like follow up, because you can make stuff up.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
what? All right, I have a confession. So back in the day,
Are you making
when
stuff up?
well, let me tell you a little story. So I do remember that it was somebody that you and I had worked with before, and I made some sort of claim, and they said, where do you see that? And I said, it's in the research. And I made it up. And then, so that's one example. Another thing that I remember saying something with, do you remember I used to do that? I used to say things with such authority. And it's like, I didn't know what I was talking about. But I remember saying something. And do you remember Mark that we work with, and he
Yeah.
worked for me? Yeah. And I remember he asked me something, and I was just like, beats the hell out of me. Like, there's things that it's like, I don't know, I'm making stuff up. Yeah. So I was a precursor to ChatGPT. Oh God, true confessions of a marketer. Yeah, I'm much better now. I don't do that now. That's because my partner questions me. He'll be like, "Where? Who? What?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I got to cite my
But
resources with
that's
him."
good, right? We
It
should,
is good.
I
He
mean,
keeps me honest. That's for sure.
and hopefully, like if you're working in an organization more than a business of one,
Yeah.
this is good stuff to share typically, and everyone can be like, call BS, or you can do some more research. That's another,
Yeah.
I mean, ask specific question, now that you've sort of been in, like you said, you've become investigative, and you're like, oh, I should have
Yeah.
asked this. That happens all the time though. I remember we would do surveys and then someone would ask a question, and we're like, dang, where were you? Because like,
Yeah.
now we have to go do another survey and try and get an answer to your question, which is really, really good. But
Yeah.
we didn't know to ask that till we'd gone through this process. Now I
Yeah.
think there's so many great tools that help speed up this
Yeah.
process of not only gathering the data, but analysis.
Yeah. So, okay, let's try to be practical. So we named a bunch of tools there. And so let's say you're like, okay, so I did this survey or I got this data, whatever it is, I upload it. Maybe we ask questions of, you know, AI to kind of get a little bit further. Maybe we ask for categorization. Maybe we ask for it to like, what are the steps that I can take to help me implement this? What should I do next? Um, how do you
Summaries,
then
yeah,
yeah.
themes.
So then what would you do, Simon, if you were responsible for maybe it's you're doing it for a client, you're giving them the insights on things.
Well, I think
Um,
I mean I would sort of go to the whole 80-20 rule, which we
mhm,
typically talk about in marketing. That make what 20% amount of effort's going to give us 80% of the results, kind of thing. Or
yeah.
um, another catchphrase that everyone says is low hanging fruit, right? I
Hmm.
would look if AI. I would sort of ask it maybe even to prioritize what it felt was really important. You could say, ask questions once you have some data to say, where are we behind the rest of the industry? And it
Mm,
may be able to provide
hmm.
that. But I would look at things too. The low hanging fruit would be stuff that I knew I could fix. Like if there was a checkout flow, let's say, on your
Mm,
e-commerce site, and everyone was getting stuck at one point, and that's where most of your negative responses were coming from. And I'm like, oh, well, we should change this wording, right? People don't understand what this wording is. Let's just clarify it. And all of a sudden, you could see a mass increase in checkout.
yes, that's a very good example of where it's like it's it's clear, like it becomes factual, where you're like, oh, we're seeing all this kind of feedback. Well, we actually then you can go through the experience yourself because maybe you launched it a long time ago and it made sense at the time and it doesn't make sense now. So it gives you the opportunity to kind of revisit it. I think
Yeah.
that's an excellent example.
I mean, we often, because we're marketers, unfortunately, we use words or we make up words or we come up with words. And really, we should just use, because we're trying to be unique or innovative or whatever, and we should really just
Hmm.
call it what it is, you
Call it what
know?
it is. Doesn't have
Yeah.
to be anything fancy. The other kind of insight I would say is sometimes you get some feedback and you find you're like, well, we're getting this feedback, but it's not something that could be a quick fix. So this is where you might want to do that secondary research where you actually start to reach out to other customers. So it's an action plan of
Hmm.
like,
Oh, true.
go and talk to these other people. And then you could even then delve a little bit deeper into like, okay, like what are the kinds of questions that I should ask these people? You could get into how can I recruit these people? All of that stuff it could help you with as well.
Yeah. I mean, another couple examples might be that people tell you that things are slow and or that people are not responsive either in a service type industry or
Mm-hmm.
maybe even your website. And you're going to have to dig into what that means sometimes
Mm-hmm.
because it might be that you need to upgrade your servers, right? Your
Mm.
performance is a technical performance, but you may not, or you may have a piece of software that's slowing everything down. So you will have to do a little digging. Sometimes if it's a service industry like a restaurant or something, you're going to have to just work with your staff to figure out what those efficiencies could be. Could you be more efficient, and ask them, what do you think will help us get food out to the tables faster or respond to customer needs? It could be all kinds of different things. Yeah.
That's true. Another thing that it could do is with that categorization, maybe you could also do sentiment.
Hmm.
You touched on it, but like maybe you could have it categorize how many, can you give me a range of like which of all these 100 responses, just to make it easy, what's the percentage of people that seem like it's a negative sentiment, neutral or positive. So it could give you kind of a taste. And then you could say, give me low sentiment. Give me a couple of examples of the low sentiment, and then it will cite it. Give me some of the high sentiment, and then it would cite it. So that might give you a little bit of a flavor of the things that people might find, good or bad about
Well,
you,
and
what
I,
you're
I
offering.
actually like where you were going, which is really like segmenting your data and then
Hmm.
analyzing that smaller subset. And
Yeah.
and in the research world, it's like, can you slice and dice things different ways, right? So
Yep.
sometimes you like you just said, you call out the good and the bad as separate buckets, and then you drill into those. So you might ask your AI tool to do that. And it may be a multi-step process for you. It may be that at some point, if this is a regular thing, if you do customer service type of research or on a consistent basis, right? Like we said, every time someone buys something or whatever, you could write a GPT too, and that's a whole nother story. But basically, that just means you create a prompt that already has all of these pieces in it. So it says, analyze for sentiment, then take each bucket and drill into the top reasons for that sentiment, positive, negative, whatever. So,
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's the other cool thing. I think about how many times I was in research or customer insight meetings and we would say, did you slice this way? And what's the first answer out of the
No.
researcher? No, or, oh, I could, but it'll be another 5 days.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. It
For
always
next
felt like it
week's
takes
meeting.
such a
And
long
it's like,
time.
how do we respond to a problem either in our marketing or in our technology if we have to wait 5 days to get a new view of data?
I know. It's true.
It's so, I want to say sad. It was
It
very
is sad. Sadsies. I know. Anyway, so what else?
I mean, I think we touched on a lot of things. I think this is one of those places where Lisa and I oftentimes get caught up by the shiny object. And as you get data like this, I feel like this is where you start like, well, what if I ask this question? What if I do this? And you're going to be like, all of a sudden you're going to be like, it's 3 hours later and you sort of got invested in this understanding your own data, I think. And then your mind's like, wait, I could try these things, Anyway, to me, this is where you get to play, right? You've captured data. As long as it's valid data, right? You're not Lisa saying it's in the research.
15 years ago. Yeah. Lisa 2.0 doesn't do that. Yeah.
No, because you have all these tools that give you instant data. Plus, people
That's true.
check
but
you.
You still have to, I was going to say, you still have to make sure that it is accurate. We still have to do that.
So all I'm saying is feel like this is one of those things where there's a lot of like liberties you can take and just dig in more, ask more questions, process
why?
Data. Yeah.
Always ask why.
In our other episode, we were talking about things like Google trends, and we gave you an example of some AI trends. But Lisa and I, before our show, were playing around and we were like putting in crazy things. And all of a sudden you're looking at the next crazy thing. And then we're like, wait a minute, we have to do a show.
I know. I was literally like, let's stay on track here.
You're all close to Google Trends.
It
was like, wow, this is fascinating. These things are interrelated. And that's the thing. You're not going to know until you look and until you dig. Why does ChatGPT and Beyonce go together? And I think after the show, we're probably both going to go online and try to figure that out. We might ask AI.
Yeah. And just as a shout out, if you need help with something like this, you can go to itsmostlymarketing.com. You can reach out to us, ask the host, and we can kind of help walk you through it if you want to ask us a question.
Absolutely. We love this part.
Yeah. And actually, that's probably going to be our next episode is listener questions.
Sounds good. Yep. Remember, so it's not data for data. I was just going to say, you've captured all this great data. Use AI. It makes it fast and easy. You're going to get a lot of great insights, tons of free tools. Just try it. Go ahead and try it.
Yep.
All right.
From tangents to tactics.
It's mostly marketing.